It's been 2 weeks since we started speed chitting our potatoes. So today's the day we start to up pot them, see how they're coming along. But first, we're gonna plant some parsley. As always, I start with my seed starting mix, peat moss, perlite, and vermiculite. And we fill up the container. Pack it down slightly. I'll be planting parsley, the extra triple curled variety. These are from 2020, so hopefully they'll be okay. They should be, but I'm taking nothing for granted this year. Parsley seeds are tiny little things. I would just sprinkle it on top. There you go. And I will just add a little bit of potting mix back on top and tap it down just so there's good contact between the seeds and the soil, and we're ready to go. We'll put a label in it and we'll bring it indoors to get them started. February is a great month. Get your herb garden started. Some herbs are cold tolerant and don't mind this weather. Others need it to be a little bit warmer, but all of them will do well from starting now because they tend to need a long time to grow to be established. And besides, you can always grow your herbs indoors on your kitchen windowsill. So having them indoors isn't a problem. And the only reason I'm only planting parsley seeds is because I already have things growing from last year that I've overwintered. Last fall, I started these peppermint and spearmint plants. They look a little worse for the wear, but if you look close enough, you can see the green starting to show up in there. So they're starting to do well. Now these will never go in the ground because they can be quite invasive. So I'm just going to be planting these in pots. In fact, all the herbs I'm growing this year are all going to be planted in pots. I have a couple of sage plants that I started from cuttings last year. I have a very large planter with sage in it, which I might be cutting down. I don't use that much sage, so I'm going to reduce the plant sizes down to these plants. And again, looking a little wilted for the time in the greenhouse over the winter time, but they're going to grow back as well. Last is thyme. I love just running my fingers through the plants because you get that waft of the smell from them. But this was also from a cutting from years ago, and I just keep cutting it down and using it in the kitchen. We will be growing oregano and basil as well. I'll be growing them a little bit later. All your herbs could be started in the month of February because, as I said, they typically take a long time to get established. So now's a good time to get them growing. And if you choose to keep them growing indoors on your windowsill, there's no problem with that at all. It's been 2 weeks since we began the process of speed chitting our potatoes. So we're going to take them out, see how the chitting process is going, and then plant them on into cups to begin the process of growing a potato plant for planting. We haven't looked at them in 2 weeks, but I could actually see in some of the containers we've got sprouts coming up, so I'm pretty excited to see what's going on. And let's see, some of these, here we go. Yeah, so we've got some good chits on here, and we'll be able to cut up this potato into several other potatoes that we'll be able to plant in the ground. This is a russet potato, and it looks like it's doing well. Let's see how the others are doing. And not quite as far along, so I'm going to let this one stay a little bit longer. This one's okay, not as good as the other. And I'm going to put them back in for another week. I mean, that's fine. You could cut this off and plant it. There'd be no problem at all. Plant the whole potato just like that too. I'd like it to just be a little bit further along, that's all. You can see they're growing, so there's no problem with them. We have the luxury of time here because I really don't plan on planting them out until mid-March. So we've got a whole month to go before we're there. This may be the Sharpo mirror. I'm not certain. Yep, this is already showing growth here. So let's take this out and see what's going on. So that's not a bad little start for a plant. I'll admit, I was expecting it to be a little bit further along based on prior experience, but that's okay. This is another of russets, and we can see we've got some growth coming out. I can see a lot of growth on the side too here. So, but we want to be careful, try not to knock these off. Yeah, this is more of along the lines of what I was expecting from all the potatoes. It's a pretty good start, nice root system there to get your potatoes started. There we go. Yeah, that's another good start to a plant. Wow, this looks ridiculous. We got some really good growth going here. So we can probably get a couple of potatoes out of this. So I'll show you my process for cutting a potato. I have some isopropyl alcohol here. I'm just going to sprinkle it over the blade. So I transfer nothing from the old potatoes onto these potatoes. Just wipe it down. So try and find, you want to have 2 to 3 eyes at least on a potato. So I'm going to cut it just like this. Get this eye here and this eye, plus this will have a few eyes here. Move those little roots out of the way. And just cutting down through. Potatoes don't need much. Plenty of stories of gardeners having just the skin of potato in their compost or something and getting a whole potato plant out of it. So potatoes don't need much. So I've got the 2 potatoes there. I think I'm going to split this one down the middle this way. So I got a bunch there, and I got there, and a couple eyes there. I'm going to try something different on this one. I'm going to cut this eye off there. And then here, I'm going to cut this one in half again. Again, trying to, oops, see, and you don't want to do that. There we go. And I'm actually going to cut this one because it looks like we might have another eye right here. So I'm going to cut this one in half again. A little more alcohol on the blade. So let's see where I was here. So we had the potential eye right there. And we've got an eye there. Let's see. I'm going to go this way. There we go. So we've got this one here. And where were the others? Got one there and one there. Now, a lot of times people will tell you to cure them for a couple of days. And if you want to do that, you might want to cut them and then cure them before you put them into the peat moss to sprout. I've never bothered curing mine. I mean, you're creating a wound on the potato, and the idea is not to let any infections be able to get into the potato. And by healing, allowing it to heal over for a couple of days, gab over, you're in essence preventing that from happening. But I haven't had that problem cutting the potatoes and then just planting them like this. I haven't had a problem with it, so that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to be doing is planting them in red solo cups. I've got holes cut in the bottom here to allow for drainage. Using this moist peat moss, you only need like an inch or 2 of soil in the bottom. Take your potato, plant it in, and then fill up the cup. And now this will be the start of the plant's growing up into a potato plant. And since these potatoes came sized already as the proper sized seed, there's no need to cut them or anything like that. And there's no real proper way to put this in. You could put it in upside down and nature will find a way. Now the reason you can put them into the peat moss again is because the potatoes have all the nutrients that these potatoes need to get started. Once we have a plant established and we plant them into the buckets, that's when we're going to want to have dirt with them. All right, I potted up all the potatoes. A couple of big ones I got in the individual pots. So we've got 26 potatoes ready to go right now. 26 russet potatoes, I should say. We still have the Sarpo Mira that we did at the start. But I got about a half dozen or so more potatoes that we've got growing on. So we should have 30 plus potatoes to plant this year. So I got the other potatoes all planted. And Home Depot finally got theirs in. White Superior, Yukon Gold, and Red Nordland. So let's take a look at the potatoes. They're a good size. And they're starting to chit too, and they got nice strong chit. I should actually mention on here, see how this is nice stubby green? This is the kind of chitting that you want on the potatoes. The ones that we get from our speed chitting, you really should probably start checking on them within a week. And by 2 weeks, they should be ready. But you notice how the others were kind of longish and whiter. They're much more fragile in that state. You get them faster, but those chits are a little bit more fragile. So when they're in this is what would be optimal, but it takes a long time to get them like this, which is why I opt for the speed chitting, so I can get a quicker harvest on them. And even though these are sturdier chits on these potatoes, you still got to be careful with them. And even when putting them into the cup, particularly with the other ones that I was doing, they need to be careful with them. Let's take a look at the Red Nordlands. Okay, they're developing some good eyes. Bunch on here. That's a nice one. This is the White Superior. But all these potatoes look good. They've all started to chit. So I'm going to put them into the cups. I don't think they really need too much more sprouting to happen. So I'm just going to put them right into the cups. It's week 14 in the garlic patch. No real change. Plants are still looking good. Starting to get some greenery on these. Some of them are still small. These are still looking worse for the wear. But otherwise, everything looks okay. Our Rutabaga isn't doing anything at all. And I'm going to say those seeds were bad. So I'm going to be able to get rid of those since they haven't grown here. They haven't grown in the seed starting indoors. I actually got the new seeds in that I have been waiting for. It took almost 2 weeks for those seeds to come in, which is a long time, I think. But I planted some more outside and some more inside. So as we can see, we got some growth here from the Golden Acres. Much better results from the Copenhagen cabbage. We got a bunch of sprouts coming up, but nothing from the Mammoth Red Rock. These were the ones from Baker Creek. The seeds were 3 years old. I would have expected them to have lasted at least that long, but looks like we're going to need to get some more red cabbage seeds. The romaine is coming along just fine, but once again, the Baker Creek seed, the black-seeded Simpson, nothing. But we'll give it a little while longer. We've got some good germination, except here, for whatever reason. So these are doing well. We should have some good broccoli plants to choose from. And the broccoli, Waltham 29. This was also from the Bentley Seed Company. And surprisingly, no response from them yet. Brussels sprouts are doing well. Our Long Island Improved. Both seed makers, although the Baker Creek is lagging behind. I think it was the Bentley Seed Company. I don't recall off the top of my head. But we've got some good germination here. Chives doing well. They got a drink of diluted fertilizer this week. And I'm going to wait until 3 weeks before I dose them again, so that they're on schedule with the onions. Not having to do it every week, give different plants and trying to remember which plants need when. So I'll just be feeding all of my vegetables a fertilizer at the same time. Our onions are certainly doing well, and it's time they got a haircut. I want to keep them to about 3 to 4 inches tall. So all we're going to do is just come in with a pair of scissors. I'm going to try and do this while holding the camera. And just snip through. It'll keep them sturdy, keep them from falling over. And it makes them smell nice too. Do the same thing here. Now, you wouldn't have to waste these cuttings. You could put them into a salad or throw the cuttings on the compost pile, whichever you prefer. We'll probably be able to do that to the chives as well when it comes to their time. So if you'd like to see what we were doing in our garden last week, check out this video right here, and then subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can follow along on the progress on all of our vegetables as we try to grow a supermarket in our own backyard. Okay, thanks for watching.